I'm going to attempt to teach you how to do the foundation single crochet. This is how I start my mosaic projects so that they are not messy, so that it's not a long chain that you need to do in order to be able to create the starting of it. It also does something else by putting your first row of single crochets in your first row. You don't have to do either chains and then single crochet back. So on the pattern that I'm using today to show this, it is the Mosaic Christmas coaster. This one is the star. As you see, it's in some other language. I'm not sure if it's what that is, maybe African, or I'm guessing maybe German. I'm not sure, but I did actually print this pattern off so that I could do this, and I got this one from Ravelry. Again, it's a Mosaic Christmas coaster and the star, and it is a simple pattern that requires only 27 loops or 27 chains. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I will be making this from these directions, the written directions. I'm not huge on using the charts. I have tried and I just get frustrated with them because they're too small. I admit I need glasses, and I will get that taken care of. But right now, with the two colors, the first color is the B, which it says is light blue, and the R is for red. So the two colors they're telling us to use here are light blue and red. I'm not using those colors. I'm going to use a light gray and a bright pink to stand out against the gray as a way of showing off the stitches and the way to emphasize the differences, I guess, in color. So I will start this, and it says to do 27 chains and then 27 single crochet. So this is not one of those patterns that's paid for. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. That's why I printed that one off so that I could use it for the purposes of this video. And I'm going to start with the foundation single crochet, which is how I like to start my mosaics. But you can actually chain 27 and then do 27 single crochet. That math doesn't work out though. If you are doing a chain, you need to crochet 28 chains in order to make 27 single crochets back. So I do this foundation single crochet because I prefer to do it as a way to start my mosaics. So for the very first one, I've got my slip knot on my hook. I'm using the 5mm again, and I'm going to hold this part of the yarn so that it leaves a little bit of a loop. It's a bit bigger. Then I'll chain 2. So the 1, 2 from my slip knot to that. Then to begin my single crochet foundation single crochet, I'm going to pick up that loop that I just made, which is a little bit looser than usual, which is also known as the back bump of your chain stitches. So if you ever hear or see a pattern that says picking up the back bump, that's what this is. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn over, and I've got 2 loops on my hook. Now the way I do foundation single crochet is once I get to this point, I go ahead and I pull up a loop and I pull through the first one, and then I go ahead and pull through both of those. And what that does is it creates that first single crochet in my chain. I'm not making a chain, I'm building the chain as I go. So if I do this a total of 26 more times, then I should have what I need to do the mosaic. Now the way to make your second and further single crochets in foundation, you pick up that loop that was just created, and again we're going to go through 2 loops here because it offers stabilization, and it helps make your single crochets. So this is the front loop that was exposed, and then you have that second loop right there in the back, and you're going to see where it looks like I'm pulling up the loops in a V stitch. That's the benefit of having two loops on your hook to work through. It offers stabilization. So again, we're going to chain one, or pick up the yarn and pull through one, and then pick up the yarn again and pull through two. You can see it a little bit better now. This is the loop that we're going to work all of our resulting stitches. So we're going to go through this one again, and this one through the front, through the back, pick up a loop, pull up your yarn, and then pull it through. So you have a motion there that's twice. You can also make half double crochets this way with by wrapping your yarn, and you can do double crochets this way without. It's a foundation single crochet, meaning you're not doing a chain stitch, you're bypassing that, and you're creating your single crochets for your second row. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this, and I'll show you. I'll keep it as slow as possible so that you can see it. And I'm going going to make 27 total. So if we count these from the beginning, we'll see here's our single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets already built on our foundation single crochet, or the chain stitch that we would normally build. Okay, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to pull up our loop, wrap the yarn, go through one, wrap the yarn, and pull through two to finish the single crochet. And this is how I do all of my mosaics. So if there's 12 or 200 stitches, I do every one of them this way. I will make the foundation single crochet as my first row, and it just builds it for me. I don't have to do chains, then come back and then go back again. It's just cuts out one step, but it builds it. It also gives it a nice finished look, and this is why every one of the ones I make is built this way. So again, front loop there and that back loop. So we're going through, pull up a loop, and pull through two. Okay, there's it is again, pull up a loop, then pull through two. And we're just going to keep doing this for 27 total stitches so that I can have the size needed for this Mosaic Star crochet coaster. Well, I want to point out one thing that people sometimes don't understand. The pattern is written according to what the designer used, how the designer put it together. So in her pattern, she says to use a 3.25 millimeter hook, which is, I think, a C or a D hook. And it's kind of small, and your coaster pattern is going to be rather small, probably 5 or 6 inches total with the fringe and whatever. But I use my H hook for these purposes because I'm trying to teach my class how to use one hook size and then progress to making things in smaller or larger hook sizes. I also think when you're teaching a class how to crochet, they need to start out with a bigger hook. Frequently get people who come in who've never crocheted, and they've bought one of those little pattern kits, amigurumis for instance, those tiny little animals with an impossibly tiny little hook, and they expect to learn how to crochet with it. And I think it's unrealistic because the hook is small, and oftentimes those hooks that are included in those kits are plastic, so they're too flexible, they move, they're not very friendly, I don't think. Last week I had 2 little girls, probably around 10 years old, come into the class, and both of them had one of those small amigurumi kits, and one girl, her hook was just the most flimsy plastic little thing that I've ever seen. And I said, you know, you need to have thicker yarn and a bigger hook. So whether they come this weekend or not will be depending on how much they were intimidated by the class last week. So today is July 15th. It's Wednesday. And I'm just saying that so we have some kind of way to track the videos and also to show the progress for people. So this is my foundation single crochet, and as you see, I'm building it on something that's already there. Now I'm going to count this just because I'm guessing that it's about right. So I should have 27 single crochets. So from the top, if you're looking at it, you can see the V's of the stitches. So we're going to count those. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. So I need one more. I thought it was about right. So let me get that to focus and go ahead through that last one. We're going to pick up that loop and pick up the back loop of this stitch and make our final single crochet in this chain. One thing about mosaic crochet, most of them you can use 2 colors, but if you get adventurous, there are some patterns where you can think outside the box and use different colors where you're cutting and joining. At the end of this row, I take, first of all, I pull up a loop, so I've got a chain on my hook, and then I go ahead and I cut the yarn about that long and I pull it tight. Okay, and then you leave that there like that. So you always work on the front side. All your stitches are made on the front side of your crochet. So for row 2, we're going to use the bright pink, and this is where it starts building the pattern. So I'm going to do a slip knot on my hook, okay, and then pulling this so that I have the front facing. Here's the back. I want to show you that the back looks a little bit different. So you have the back loop, that third loop that I use later on, and then technically this is the first chain. Okay, so here's the front side. The front side is a little bit different when you do it this way, but what it does is it sets you up a place if you decide to put fringe, or if you do a border around there, it sets you up a place to put those stitches instead of having to figure it out and poke holes through your work and just guess. You can have it already set up. So the first and the last stitch on any mosaic is a border stitch. A border stitch is simply a single crochet under both loops, both of these loops here, and it's a regular single crochet. So what I mean by that is you go ahead and you pull up your single crochet, your chain loop there, and then you start. So for the second row, you're going to do all single crochets to the end, and then you'll do a border stitch. So in this case, we're going to go through the back loop, pick up that third bump, that third loop, okay, and do single crochets all the way across. Now this should make it reversible. That's why I do this, is because it makes a reversible pattern, and this is something, again, I taught myself how to do. A lot of people are going to just show you to pick up that back loop only and continue. That's fine. If you don't mind the little floppy bits in the back, that's fine. Do it your way, but I'm going to do it this way always because I just prefer it, and it feels cleaner to me, and I think it just looks neater. So as you see, I'm building a ridge. This is the front loops only of this row, the single crochet, and then the second row is single crochet. It doesn't specify back loop only on this pattern, but a lot of patterns are going to say BLO for back loop only for the single crochet. So as you can see, I'm already setting this up so that the stitches are already put in there in a way that keeps them neat and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and work these stitches all the way over. This first row is a little fiddly for me, but I will keep going. So I am to the point where I've done so many of these that I can feel that third loop, and I know how to pull through it when I'm crocheting. Sometimes the yarn splits, and that's what stinks about certain yarns, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to go with what I have, which is Big Twist Pounder, or 1 pound, value pound is what it's called. And the gray is just, you know, Big Twist is super soft. I like it because it is soft. It is what I use in most of my blankets because of its softness. And then the pink is also, I think this is Big Twist. I don't have a label on it, so I think it's Big Twist in hot pink or bubblegum or some flavor of yarn there. And it's just what I had on hand. I wanted to go with something that was so bright and vivid that you could actually, you know, see how this works. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll pick back up. I'll talk to you in just a moment when I get to the end. Having fingernails helps a lot in this. Unfortunately, I break my fingernails off by the dumbest ways, usually picking up an empty grocery sack, or, you know, washing my hands, some stupid thing. I type all day at work and have no problem with them, but let me pick up an empty grocery bag and I lose a fingernail. So yeah, for people who say they can't crochet with long fingernails, yes you can. If you use them for other things, why can't you crochet with them? There's a lot of things out there. Also, one thing I told my students from the very beginning is there's no wrong way to hold your hook. There's no wrong way to hold your yarn. A lot of people will say, oh, you're holding it wrong, or you're doing it wrong. If you're making the stitches, if you're getting the look that is supposed to come from the stitches, you're absolutely not holding it wrong. You're holding it the right way for you, right? So a lot of people, I've heard them say, no, you're holding it wrong. I'm sorry. If it works for you, it's not wrong. And some of my people in my class hold the yarn, you know, this way where they feed it between those two fingers. I personally do this. I bring the yarn from behind my pinky around these two and over my index finger. I always hold my stitches real close to the stitch to keep them fluid so that they're open, they stay open the same way, and you can clearly, you know, see them. Also, it helps to keep them from getting too big or getting too tight. And my point with that is that you need to be able to pull your hook through. When I'm teaching, I tell them your point to keep your stitches consistent is point your hook to the ceiling, and as you grab the yarn and pull it forward, you want to point it down just towards the floor, and then you grab your yarn and you pull it through again. A lot of people do this step differently as well. So my point is, do what makes you comfortable. As long as you're getting the same result from the way you hold it and the way you work it, you're doing it right. And you're doing it right for you. So we've done 26 of the stitches And for the final one, we're going to go through underneath both of those, not just through the back, and we're going to pull it through. And then I like to flip this little tail from the previous row over that and pull through the yarn that way and give it a snip. And I actually do this kind of close to my fingers because once you pull it through, it's actually quite long, so you don't really need to. The reason I do this with the other yarn is because as it grows, I will tie those two pieces together just to strengthen them. So we go back to the gray yarn now, and on row 3 it says to do the base or the border stitch and 25 double crochet in the gray. So we're going to put that slip knot on there, and again we start with the single crochet on the ends. I always kind of force it through that little V part in the front so that it makes a very neat pattern once you do this, and then I go ahead and start. So now I'm going to do 25 double crochets. As a double crochet, you wrap the yarn, pick up that front loop from the single crochet below, right there, pick up the front loop from the single crochet right there on that row, and then finish your double crochet. Okay, so we're going to keep doing that all the way across. Front loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, wrap, go front loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, and we're going to keep going all the way across for 25 of these stitches. So you have 27 stitches at the end of this. You have a total of 25 double crochet with a border stitch on each end, which consists of single crochets. And just keep going. It makes it easy, and it kind of is wiggly when you first do this, so you see it kind of folds and bends a little bit, but as you work it, it's nice and flexible. That's the consistency working there in your favor. As long as you keep your tension the same and you're working, you know, with the same degree of concentration or whatever you want to call it, you should get the same kind of stitch, the same look to your stitches. Okay, so it's incredibly difficult for me to do this behind the camera. As I get better with this, it will get better. This is my first day on YouTube, so in a year we'll see how much better my videos get. July 15th, 2027 should be something different, at least I hope. So we're just going to keep going, and as you see, it's covering up that pink. You can't see it right now because the pink, there are two reasons. The pink stitches are single crochets, and the other reason is because we are fastening them down. We're catching them here and anchoring them, which is essentially hiding part of that stitch behind the gray. This is why it gets so dense, is because I'm doubling up on the thickness on these rows. Something else that might be helpful for you to know, if you're guessing which row you're on, understand that all of your odd rows are going to be one color and all of your even rows are going to be a different color. So all of my odd rows are going to be this light gray, and all of my even rows are going to be pink. So that helps in keeping track of the row count. I also take a pin and I make a little check mark by each row as I finish it, so that I know I've done that row and I can keep going. It's just some of the ways I, keep track of things as I do it. Even if I have crocheted for 50 some years, I'm not above using little methods to help myself out. So we're almost done with the 25 double crochet here, and I've got one more double crochet to do. Something else to notice here, I have a double crochet, so I have a single front loop to use here, but there is no front loop here, so it should be a telltale sign that you need to do something else at the end. So I go through the end right between that little V. This is also a different stitch that's used in some other things. They make a little heart. When you look at it, it makes a little heart shape, and there are some patterns out there where you do like a Christmas beanie, and then there's little hearts that show up because you're going through the stitch. I think it's called a couch stitch or something. I can find the actual name for it. So here is row 1, row 3, okay? Row 2 is the pink. So we have 1, 2, 3 rows on this already, okay? Now we're going to continue with the pink. And again, when you're doing this, your pink goes into your pink yarn, your gray goes into your gray yarn, and that's another secret to keeping it straight for you. Now it's going to be very obvious as I go. The base border stitches here are going to start building a design of their own. So if you go from the front between those two legs of the single crochet, and I force mine through the back here. Oh, I missed it totally, but I go through between the two legs of it. I pick up this back here. Oh, this is difficult to see, I'm sorry. And I pick it up here, okay? Then straighten that out. You're going to have some fringe. You're going to cut off at every end, and you're going to join with every end. Now the fourth row, it says to do 27 single crochet. Okay, so the way her pattern's written is that you would do single crochet from the very beginning to the very end. It doesn't specify the back loop. Now here is the back loop, the third loop, and then that pink loop there. This is how we anchor it off, okay? Everything we do on the front is going to be mirrored on the back so that it makes that reversible pattern. And we're going through the top, catching that third loop, catching that back loop of the pink single crochet, pulling up a loop and going through both of them. And we're going to do that one all the way across. When you get it built up a little bit, it gets less wiggly and less hard to use or to do, and that's, I think, where I start to really enjoy it. But the first 10 rows or something of a big blanket can be very frustrating, especially if you're just doing this over and over again to get it started. So on this particular case, it's a small coaster, and we will start seeing some changes in it. And here I'm just going to keep going across. So I'll try not to make this too long of a video because, you know, I want to keep your attention, but I don't want to drain you of attention. Okay, so this is how I do it. Okay, so I'm going to keep going, and as you can see, I'm using my finger on my left hand to help me feel. This finger helps me to feel where the stitch goes. So I actually put it behind that stitch, and I push. When I push through, I can feel that I've got both of those loops, and then I pull up a loop on that pink one and pull through both. Single crochet all the way across, back loop only. This is how you do mosaic crochet. Single crochet, back loop only. In my way of doing it is single crochet, back 2 loops, because you've got the back loop, you've got that third loop, and then you catch this loop. So there's 2 back loops you're going to be catching with that one in the center. Just adds stability, makes it more, I think, professional looking, more neat and clean looking. And I think this is a good example because the pattern is small. It's only 27 stitches across by 26 rows tall, and that helps to make it so that you're not like completely worn out by doing this small one. But it's a good starter project because there's not a lot of changing back and forth in the beginning. It's just single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, and then on row 5 it's actually single base single border single crochet, 6 double, 3 single crochet. So that helps you to know that you're going to start seeing the pattern evolve into the star. So this is a good pattern to start with. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and the author is what is her name? Oh, I probably can't read it. I will get her name for anybody who's looking for this pattern, but it is just a simple little starter pattern project. I think that would be good for just about anybody to start learning if they wanted to do something small just to get the feel of it before they jump into something like a blanket, because blankets require a lot of concentration. You have to count a lot, and the blanket I'm working on is to the point where I'm about 75% done. So there's a lot of rows that are just double crochets or single crochets, which makes it easy. Now I'm at the end again, and I will just show you. I'm going to go through where that V is. I'm going to go through that, and you see I come through the back of it, and then I'm going to pull up my loop, flip that yarn out of my way, pull through my stitch, and cut it off. And what I've done is I've caught that gray and it's in there. I'll go ahead and snip that, and then I've got four ends because the first row was worked in foundation single crochet. Now as you can see, this is the front loop only. Here is the single crochet, and on the back we've already got it nice and neat because I've been picking them up as I go. Also, you can see this pattern evolving on the side where it looks like little hearts, or you can see that, a clear definition. This is also going to make it easy for you to come back around if you wanted to put a border. You don't have to dig again. You don't have to go through this stitch to start your border. You can actually go through these ones that have already been built up to make it easier for you. I know a lot of little tricks, or I use a lot of little tricks when it comes to crochet, because I hate sewing in ends. I hate to have to weave in ends of any sort. So I do as much as I can while I'm doing it. So it's basically very little for me to do at the end. So again, through the single crochet, and now this says to do 6 double crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'll go ahead and work my way across, and I'll tell you when I get to a place where it changes. Okay, so front loop, and finish the double crochet. And hopefully that's what I said before I started this. So double crochet for the number that it says. And then it says to go to single crochet. So in this case, we're not going to use the front loop. We're actually going to use the back loop and that third loop of the single crochet in the row below. Okay, and we're going to do that for 3 times. So that we have set up something here. So there's single crochets there, single crochets in them. Not every single crochet gets a double crochet, but every double crochet gets a single crochet. One way to keep track of it. The other thing about this pattern that I like is that it's a simple geometric pattern, so it should be easy to figure out the symmetrical sides, so that when you're doing this, it gives you a center and it gives you two defined sides, and you should be able to get your pattern to work out right. Just trust the process, trust the pattern. There are some that have mistakes in them, but you know, not usually. Most of them are tested. Those ones who aren't tested, sometimes you might get a surprise. We're going to go back to single crochets again, back loop, third loop, and just want you to notice the V of the two loops together, and then how I leave that little ridge. So you've got the gray ridge here. Obviously that will be left open because they want you to see some of the pink. And then the last few stitches are double crochets and a border single crochet. Okay, so we're just going to finish those. When I did this for my class a couple weeks ago, I actually test all the patterns that I give to them to try out or to use, and I make a sample piece of it before I go to the class, so that they have an idea of what they're making and what it looks like, and gives them a clear view of what it should look like when it's done. Okay, we're at the border stitch. I'm going to pick up, so we're going through, we're picking up 2 loops there. That's another way to know you've done it right. And go ahead and finish off that row. Snip, pull it through, tighten it up, and then you've got something that looks like this. So you've got double crochets, single crochets, double crochets, single, double. For row 6, we start again, and we can already know that we're going to put single crochets in all those doubles that are there. So that's this row. But there's going to be some changes here because we're going to start working in something else. So I'm going to go through, force my way around that one single loop back there. It gets easier, as you can see, and then I'm going to put my single crochets in. So back loop, third loop, pick up a loop, and let's do that for these first double crochets that are along here. I have a fairly easy tension. I don't do anything real tight and I don't do anything real loose. I have a consistent tension with my crochet work. Everything is held the same way. So the yarn feeds from my finger that you can see on my left hand, because I'm keeping it stretched out to provide yarn for working. I call this my working yarn. And you can see, yes, I do have a permanent little thing, but crochet for 50 years and see if it doesn't do something to your hands. And now we're going to go to the double crochets. Now when you're doing this, it's really tempting to pick up that gray yarn because that front loop is there, but you do not. You work pink in pink, gray in gray. So you come down, force your hook between those 2 loops, that gray hook and that gray loop and that pink one, pick up the front loop from that pink single and the front loop of that gray single, and work your double crochet. And you do that again because you've got 3 here, so it says to do it for 3 double crochets. Okay, so we're going to pick up that front loop and the front loop there and finish our double crochets. So now we have 3 double crochets. We're going back to the single crochets where we pick up the 2 loops on the double below and the back loop of the pink behind. Again, we're going pink into the pink. This is how we get the consistency and the color match. It has to be put on there in such a way that it makes sense on the back just like it does on the front. So we're going to go ahead and keep doing that across until we get back to those pink single crochets down below one, where we're going to actually do double crochets again. So I'm going to keep working this across. And now I'm back to the double crochets. So wrap the yarn, pick up the pink loop right here, and the front loop of that gray single crochet, and continue your double. So wrap, pick up a loop, pick up the front loop of the single crochet, pull through both, and finish your double crochet. Wrap, front loop of the pink, front loop of the gray, wrap, pull through two, pull through two, and then let's do the single crochet again, because we're doing double crochets. We're seeing this double crochets, I mean. So we have to fasten those down, anchor those down with single crochets attached to the back of the single crochet from the row below. And here's the last one to do that we have available to do that. So you know that we're at the end of that row. There's no more hook loops to pick up there. So we'll go ahead and finish this off. I'm going to flip that yarn over that way, stick my hook through this one and that one. So I've got a V on my hook, pull up a loop, pull a single through, and tie off. Okay, I will do one more row here of the gray and one more row of the pink. Then I will finish this up, or get close to finishing it up, and I'll come back to show you how I end these things. So we're going to start with a row 7, and this is our gray. It's an odd row, okay? So we have 1, 3, 5, 7. Through the front of this V. Sometimes I do it this way to go through, and then it just naturally puts me where I want it to be. And ta-da! I've got my little heart shape, and I've got my single crochet in there. So now it says to do 6 double crochet. Okay. So much easier to see with the gray. Front loop of the double crochet, front loop of that single crochet, finish your double. Again. See, I kind of lay it backwards so I can see the underside of those stitches, and then I pick them up. Okay. Last one, because I naturally have to switch over to singles. There is nowhere else for me to put a double. So I will not put a double in a double. That's a rule, okay? I don't know if it's the rule, but it's the rule I use. And it works. So now I have to switch back to single crochets. So I'm going to go through those 2 loops, pick up the gray, because I'm using gray, and finish that off. I'm fastening down these double crochets. Means I'm pushing them down a little bit so they get a little bit more squatty, but it also fastens them down so that they're not going to be walking around moving loose on this pattern. And you can see I've set up the next row for the single crochets of the pink. And now we will continue the pattern across, and it says to do 3 double crochets. We clearly have more than 3 available, so we'll do 3 double crochets. Okay. and then it says to do 5 single. Is that right? No, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the pattern wrong. So I actually had to pull that out. So I have 3 single crochets. I need to do 5 total. Okay, this makes sense. So I need to do 2 more. As you see, it's a single and a single. Back loop, back bump, 3rd loop. So now I have 5 singles in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 double crochets. This is where I do it. I make mistakes all the time. I usually catch them because something doesn't look right. So, I mean, I think that's just growth, okay? And then I will do 5 singles. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is just staying with the pattern, and we'll pick up the back loop. We'll pick up the 3rd loop right there, and that fastens it on in preparation for the next row. So I'm going to keep going with my single crochet, back loop, back bump, or 3rd loop, whatever you call it. Pick up that gray loop and keep going. After a while it becomes just second nature, and you can tell when you haven't picked up all the loops because it doesn't feel as heavy or as stable. And then we have back to double crochets, and we'll finish it off with a border stitch of single crochet through the loop below, or the stitch below, to make that shape, or that heart stitch. And you can really see the pattern evolving here. Also, I'm about an hour almost into this, so I'm going to shortcut this video off at this point, and I will finish this to the end of the last row, and I'll come back and make a follow-up video. Okay, so I have finished this with a single crochet through that single crochet at the bottom, and I will cut this now. Pull that through. I'll show you the back side so that you have a good idea of what's going on here. Here's the double crochets. You can clearly see that ridge there now. These ones are already fastened off and anchored down, and then you have it again here with 3, and again here. So I will be back.